Hello and welcome to this urgent message. So as you probably know, there's this huge government stimulus going on, and if you own a small business or you're even a sole proprietor, you may be eligible for a $10,000 completely free government grant. $10,000. So first I'm going to go over exactly what this grant is and what the other loans are that the Small Business Association is offering, and then I'm going to actually go through the loan process so you can see step by step exactly how to do it. If you want to skip ahead just to the loan process, I will put in the description the timestamp when that starts. Otherwise, I'm going to first go over all the stipulations of this to see whether or not you're eligible. This is like an 800-page document, and I took out some of the important points. So I'm going to spend some time first talking about that, then we'll go into the loan document. So this is of the $2 trillion stimulus, $10 billion of it is allotted to help small businesses out. And that might seem like a ton of money, but actually at $10,000 a piece, that's only 1 million businesses that are going to be eligible for any amount of grant money. And to put that in perspective, there's about 30 million small businesses in the United States, so these could potentially go up really fast. So it's first come, first serve. So if you're interested in this, I definitely recommend watching this video and then going and doing it as soon as possible. And make sure you watch all of this video because there might be certain parts that if you miss, you might not apply, because I spent a lot of time researching this to make sure that I did it correctly, so that way I can help you guys out as well. So $10 billion stimulus, who can apply? Small businesses, nonprofits, sole proprietors, and anyone who has hired an employee or contractor within the last fiscal year. So if you run a small business and you have 0 employees and you haven't hired anyone in the last year, unfortunately, you're not going to be eligible for this, but you still are eligible for the other personal stimulus guarantees. I know there's things for student loans, there's that $1,200 check. There's a few other things that individuals can get, but this is going to be businesses who have hired someone. I think the goal here is to try and help businesses not having to fire their employees, basically. That's kind of the goal here. So the max loan amount. So everyone's been talking about this $10,000 loan, but there's actually the potential to get more than $10,000. And $10,000 is the guaranteed grant part. So the max amount of the loan is 2.5 times the average monthly payroll expenses for 1 year prior to the loan date. And they're going off the fiscal year, so that's the year ending February 1st. If you run a seasonal business, you use the average payroll expenses from February 15th, 2019 to June 30th times 2.5. If your business has been in business less than a year, you use the dates from January 1st to February 29th, 2020, multiply that by 2.5. That's your maximum eligible loan amount. If you started your business after February 15th, you're not eligible for anything. So these loan proceeds, they can be used for payroll costs, including health benefits, interest on mortgages, rent or lease payments, utilities, interest, and other debt that might be incurred during this period. You can't use this loan if you already have another loan out to cover payroll, but you can still get more than one loan through the SBA if you have a current loan, as long as it's not for payroll specifically. There's no fee on this loan. Most SBA loans have fees, and it's free to apply with this loan and the grant. No personal guarantee or collateral is required to apply. So they have a maximum term of 10 years and a maximum interest rate of 4%. And again, this is all for the loan that's potentially more than the $10,000 grant. So I'm explaining everything that a business can possibly apply for. I'll get to the 10 grand in just a little bit here. So payments and interest on these loans, if you do happen to get a loan for more than the $10,000, nothing is going to start for a period between 6 months and 12 years. It's not exactly defined in the document. Again, I'm just summarizing certain points, and I'll link the actual document, but it uses a lot of legal terms, so I'm just trying to summarize the beginning here. So expenses to be forgiven. So this is the exciting part. With this loan, it actually can potentially be completely a grant. They call it a loan because it seems to me like they want the ability to, if someone is spending this loan on something like going on vacation or some frivolous expense, then they can say, hey, yeah, that's a loan. You don't get to just keep that money to, spend it willy-nilly. So they call it a loan, but there's specific terms in there claiming that it is forgivable. And things that can be used on that make this loan forgivable are payroll costs, mortgage interest, rent and lease payments, utility payments, and a little stipulation here is the amount available to be forgiven might be reduced if your payroll now is lower than the payroll you claim in the period. And again, that goes back to how I was explaining. I think the whole goal here is to prevent people from firing their employees. So more people stay employed, more people have money to spend, the economy doesn't dip quite as much. So that's kind of a reoccurring theme here where there's a really high emphasis on payroll and making sure pay is there. Another exception is any employee who normally receives more than $100,000 a year is disqualified from this. So that won't count towards the total loan amount. So basically any business expenses can be put towards this loan and then potentially forgiven. But at the end of maybe a year or two from now, when payments start coming in, that's when you'll have to reach out and request to be forgiven, and you're going to have proof of what this was spent on in order to be forgiven. Otherwise, it's going to be a loan. If you do end up having to pay it as a loan, at least it's a relatively low interest rate. It says explicitly that it'll be less than 4% interest. So what the SBA will require in order for you to get the loan is proof of payroll through tax filings, documentation of your lease, utility, mortgage obligations, basic information that you think would be required. Yes, they're giving out money, but there's some due diligence being done. Now on to the most exciting part, the EIDL loan, which stands for Economic Injury Disaster Loans. Now this is an existing type of loan through the SBA, but this is the interesting thing that is part of the stimulus package where they allowed us this specific $10,000 grant that can be potentially received by 1 million businesses with the $10 billion stimulus package. This grant is available to small businesses, nonprofits, sole proprietors, independent contractors, and some select other entities. Again, you have to have had either an employee or a contractor within the last fiscal year to apply for this. Businesses must be in operation before January 31st of 2020 for this $10,000 grant. You can be approved for this program using solely your credit score, and you may not have to submit tax returns. So they actually made this process a little bit easier. Just last week, you had to submit like 6 forms in order to apply, and I personally did that, and there was all sorts of forms that I had to submit: my profit and loss, I had to submit my tax documents, both personally and for the business, as well as like 6 other personal finance agreements and things like that. Now it's super easy. It's this application online, which I'll go through in a few minutes here. So in order to apply, you only need your credit score looked up, and you don't have to send additional documents as of right now. They might later on reach out before they start doling out money and ask for additional information, but in order to do the first application, you don't need any of that. So it says up to $10,000 given as an advanced grant for payroll and operating expenses to small businesses within 3 days of applying. Now, I think that 3 days part is a little bit optimistic. I can't see them going through 1 million applications, or probably more like 10 million applications in 3 days and start doling out money. But they do ask for your bank account, so I mean, it might be as quick as that. We'll see, but I think that's getting a little overzealous on that end. So with this, you do not need to repay it if you get accepted. And the funny thing is, you don't even actually have to be accepted for a loan in order to get this EIDL grant. Even if you completely apply, it's basically first come, first serve. So that's why I say get it done as soon as possible. All you have to do is apply. You might not get a loan, but you'll still get that $10,000 as long as you're in line early enough. Again, you must be able to prove that you would have had the funds to cover these expenses prior to this COVID-19 epidemic thing going on. I'm not sure exactly how you would prove that. If you're a brand new business, if you're an older business, you might have to submit a profit and loss again later on, but I'm not sure exactly how they plan on guaranteeing that. I have a feeling that they're not going to be super specific on that end. Again, the grant can be used for any kind of business expenses. You just can't use it on personal, like frivolous type things. So you'll probably have to prove what exactly you spent it on. So on to the actual application. In order to do this, you just go to sba.gov. On the top, you'll see here the coronavirus EIDL loan. Click here. Let this load. So it says on here that the entire application is 2 hours and 10 minutes. I don't know why it says that, because it's more like 10 minutes. It's actually really easy to do. So I already filled this out, but I'll just do like an example. The one that I had chosen is applicant is a business with not more than 500 employees. If you have more than 500 employees, you can't apply. I don't think that's going to be an issue for most people. Most of you are probably going to be in operation under a sole proprietorship with or without employees as an independent contractor. Again, if you don't have employees, you're not eligible for the grant. But I'm going to go as a business here. You check all these following as long as you apply. Most people aren't going to be disqualified here. No legal activity, no principal of the applicant with 50% or greater ownership interest. You're not delinquent on child support. Not an agricultural enterprise. Doesn't do live performances. Not gambling. Not lobbying. Can't be a member of Congress. So if you're a member of Congress, click out of this video. All right, your business legal name. If you're a sole proprietor, that's just going to be your name. If you have an LLC, it's going to be your LLC's name. Mine is Skinny Wimp Moving Arizona. My trade name is the same thing. Here's your EIN or Social Security number. It's an EIN. If you have an LLC or if you have employees, you will have an EIN number. Basically what that is, it's like a Social Security number, but for your business. If you're a sole proprietor or a contractor, then you'll put in your Social Security number. I'm just going to make up an EIN. Organization type. For me, I'm a limited liability company, but my company is filed tax-wise as an S corporation, which if you are an S corporation, you'll probably know because you have to file that differently, and you probably have an accountant who did that for you. If you're a sole proprietor or a contractor, you're either going to be sole proprietor or an LLC, a single member LLC. Don't click independent if you are a contractor or sole proprietor, because that's something different. You'll just do sole proprietor. I'm an S corporation. Are you nonprofit? Yes or no? Is the applicant a franchise? Yes or no? Gross revenues for the past 12-month period. So we'll just say 800,000. Cost of goods sold. If you're a service business, your cost of goods sold are likely going to be pretty much nothing or very low, because what that means is like products that you paid for that you'll later sell. So that applies more for like stores. People who are buying things, marking them up and selling them for more. For a service, I mean, mine is probably under 10,000 for the year. Rental properties or loss of rent, let's just say $10,000 because I have a warehouse here. Don't put in things that don't exactly apply to you. These next ones, you don't have to enter anything in. This has to do with nonprofits. This one's a little bit confusing because it looks like what your business expenses are, but this is actually for nonprofits. Again, this next one is for faith-based entities, so unless you're a church, you don't need to fill that in. None of these are necessary, so we're actually just going to skip over those. Primary business address. Business email. Make up that. Business date established. If that's just you as a sole proprietor, that's going to be just a day when you started offering your service. If you're an LLC, you're going to have to look at your articles of incorporation through your state and see exactly when your entity was established. It'll be right there on your state website once you look that up. Current ownership sense, that's if you were the one who formed the entity, then that's going to be the same date as above. If you purchased a business, then you'll put that the date of the purchase of that business. Business activity. These are always kind of frustrating because it's always hard to find exactly where or what your business would be on here. I don't think it's going to matter a whole lot. So I'm just going to do business services. We'll just say printing, graphic, and design. Again, this is just an example. Number of employees you have. Now, this is the number of contractors or employees you had in the past year. Again, if you don't have employees, don't apply. We're just going to put 50 in here as an example. Next, the owner's information. Any owner who has more than, I believe, 20% ownership needs to have their information filled out here. It doesn't say on this application, but it did on the long form application, more than 20%. Is your business owned by a business entity? Most of you are going to be no. That would be like if you own a corporation that owns an LLC or a corporation that owns another corporation. So you probably know there. Information, make up a phone number, title, ownership percent. If you're the sole owner, then it's 100%. Email again. Your social security number. So if you own a business, you will both need to put in your social security number and the EIN separately. So we're just going to make one up here as well. Your birthday, make one up. Place of birth. I assume this is the state. So just put in the state of your birth. U.S. citizen, yes. Your address, make up an address here, and you just click next. All right, we're almost done here. In the past year, has the business or listed owner been convicted of a criminal offense? No. Has the application listed an owner currently suspended or debarred from contracting with federal government? No. Are you presently subject to an indictment, criminal information, arraignment, or other means which formal criminal charges might be brought against you? No. This part has to do with if you're paying an attorney or accountant to fill this out for you. If not, don't worry about it. Now, this is super important. If you want to be eligible for the $10,000 grant, which you obviously do, you have to check this box. I would like to be considered for an advance up to $10,000. And then where to send funds. You enter in your bank name, account number, and routing number. And then you click hereby certify that this is all accurate. Make sure this is accurate. You'll click that, and then you'll click next, and you'll get a confirmation number, and you're done. It's as easy as that. So again, make sure you do this as soon as possible because I keep reading that's first come, first serve, and only 1 million businesses are going to be getting these grants, and you might potentially get more. You might get a loan for more than $10,000, and it may potentially be forgivable if you spend it on the right things. And you know, the money's out there, so you might as well apply. It doesn't cost anything except for 20 minutes of your time. So go out there and do it. If you have any specific questions, feel free to comment below and I'll answer the best of my ability. I read through a lot of these documents, so I think I should be able to help answer a lot of the questions that you might have. And again, thanks for watching. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing. Hope you have a profitable day.